Welcome to Entitled, where we talk to leaders and entrepreneurs in the real estate industry in Greater Phoenix. I'm Bernie Espinosa, your co-host, along with David Bellinger, my other co-host,
hey everyone.
David the Great.
David, wait, who came up with that?
I just
David?
made it up.
Bernie
I
just made it up. That's
yeah.
okay, though.
Yeah, I roll freestyle.
I'm not
Jay.
using that. Okay.
But our great guest today is Jay Jasper. And you know what, David, why don't you do a little intro on Jay?
Man, Jay, we've known each other, I'd say, quite a long time now.
It has been. I'm trying to think when Kim started stalking me. So, that's got to be.
It's been multiple years now,
Yeah.
and it's been.
And Kim is not David's wife.
No.
Kim is our sales
Let's be clear
executive.
about that, yeah.
Boy, you guys wanted to cover that quickly.
We got to clarify on that, right? But, it's been such a pleasure being able to partner with you and your team. You guys have obviously from when we first met and to now, things are a lot different with you and your brokerage and everything. And
Yeah, it is.
It's just been an honor to get to know you personally as well. And we talk about this, when we're describing our podcast. We want to know the person, not just the career. In other words,
Do you
beyond
really
the
want to know
realtor.
the person?
Absolutely, we do.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
you've had such a great, in the amount of time that we've gotten to know you, gotten to work with you, it's been really awesome to see what you've done with a big brand that still runs as a boutique and has visibility, has branding, has an impact, and actually cares. So it's been very fun to watch you and your growth and success.
Oh,
So
shucks.
super excited to have you here.
Can that be a wrap?
That's it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
Yeah,
joining.
thank you. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. No, you guys have been a great partner. And, I kid about Kim Hickey, title rep, stalking me. And it was like, Kim, go away. Kim, don't talk to me. And it was very interesting. So finally, she wears you down. I said, okay. Let's
love
go
it.
have lunch or
She's
coffee.
awesome.
She is awesome. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And she said, what can I do for you? And I said, I don't want postcards. I don't want this. I want you to help us grow our brokerage. And she said, oh, is that all? And she starts texting, and I get these texts with another person. And she said, this person isn't happy where they're at. So maybe, and she might be a good mix, or he might be a good mix with you. And so she starts setting up these meetings. It was exactly what I had asked. And not that, we get solicited all the time. And of course, we've talked about now it's like, oh my gosh.
It's constant.
Lock the doors.
Yeah.
But in our industry, people, I think, get locked into what they have to offer, and they think that's it. And I know there's lots of rules and guidelines and that sort of stuff, but, it's no different than with us and clients. We need to, if we listen, the answer is there. Buyers, sellers, it isn't, there's usually a why, a big why.
For sure.
And, that's what Kim did. That's what opened the door, was listening to the why and actually following through on that. So, it has been great. And she is, I don't know how she maintains the energy she does. She probably has IV Red Bull. Sponsored by Lawyer's Title. Red Bull, the official drink of Lawyer's Title. They'd like a little royalty. Thank you. So, that's kind of where it started. And,
And it's great to hear that, you know what I mean? Because it is about the relationship, and that's where it has to start,
Well, and that relentless pursuit. Let's be real. You have to have that relentless pursuit before you even have an opportunity to build a relationship. And so that's a great story. Very short version of that, but I know how long.
Well, that is short version.
Yeah.
The long version, go too many twists and turns.
Yeah.
No, but so that's when we look for partners. So my roles changed. Even when we were a team, it was different than it is now. In team you have a lot more control, let's say, on how you can encourage the use of vendors and those sorts of things. I mean, you can't demand anything, but when you become brokerage, now all of a sudden everyone's really an independent contractor. And so the people you pick almost have to work harder at maintaining business, just because, there's all the little shiny objects
Right.
being dangled. And, I've learned over the years, and I've chased a few of them,
Yeah.
That usually doesn't work in the long run or there's more to it. And so we try to counsel on look at the big picture, not the short term. But
I always call it the weapons of mass distraction in the real estate industry, right? But I mean, where you're at now has been really impressive. But the reality is you got 40 plus years in the business. You've personally done over 1,500 transactions. And now you're more in a position of leadership and growing your brand, right?
growing our brand, yeah. And I say that seriously. Our brand, I tell our agents, it's our brokerage because there is no brokerage without good agents. And, we talk about, I don't like the word culture, but culture. I mean, I don't know how else you describe it, but working on maintaining a culture is the more you grow is difficult, but it's also the piece that our agents will talk about is they love their family. And I think of real estate as the loneliest industry there is, where we deal with people every day, but we always have to be, everything's great, Well, guess what?
I can tell you really mean it.
You have to have the on button at all times.
You do,
Yeah.
and it is great, but it's full of emotion, people's emotions, our own everything, and
Very emotional,
And
for
if you
sure.
don't have people that you can trust that you work with, when that's a main part of your life, that makes it very lonely. So we have that. I have my Cheerios box psychology degree that I got. And it feels like and.
Learn on the fly.
Lots of Kleenex.
Yeah, lots.
Don't.
Told you.
Yeah, you told me to bring Kleenex
don't
into it.
cry. Oh no. Yeah. Well, anyhow, so you get to know your agents. I think that's, our industry is going in so many directions, and yet underlying it really isn't. So I think of the last 6 months have been really intriguing to watch. And not that they haven't given me a little anxiety at times, because look what just happened. Wonder what that's going to do. But if you get back and focus on your own people, the brand we're building, whatever, that piece of it, it becomes more interesting to observe. And I think of it as, I remember as a kid, you'd go and the water would be clear after rain on a gravel road. Look, the water's clean. And then you'd step in there and it'd swirl up all the mud.
Yeah.
We just had a mud swirling, really, and especially in the valley. So, we're kind of the incubator for new. Everyone
Okay.
wants to come in to, you talk about all the things that have come in first, the open doors and the offer pads and all the iBuyers. They test Phoenix market is one of the big test markets because we've got a wide variety of housing. And so now we've got, expansion of a brand who just came in and decided let's just buy our way in. We've got another one that came in that's, I'm not quite sure of the tactic, but they stirred it up, got some movement. And I feel like right now the mud is settling back down and everyone's kind of looking around going, okay, those that haven't made a shift or shuffle are going, okay, now what am I going to do? And I think that's the piece of agents that are the most attractive in a way. They didn't make a quick shift, and I'm not criticizing anyone for moving. We all move for a reason. So, but I think that stability piece, movement is not stability, and we're in an industry of people hopping around. It's a small world, and gosh, you've been at 5 brokerages. How's that worked for you? I mean, you just look at resumes. And so I look at it now as let's continue our growth.
Well, and it's not only just movement within brokerages, right? It's movement out of the industry, back in the industry, out of the industry.
Yeah.
And, if you look back, 10, 15 years, you could count the brokerages out there a lot easier than you could right now, right?
Right.
There's a lot of options there. And
Yep.
how many people have been at one place, or honestly, if I hear someone that's moved 3 times, I'm like, wow, that's it.
That's right. Agreed.
It's the uncommon, and it's not just the realtor side of it. It's everywhere in our industry.
Oh, look at mortgage.
Yeah.
Well, and even in your
title, yeah.
title.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, it's because you said it earlier. Arizona is a very attractive state for real estate. And if you look across the country, Phoenix is one of the top areas for real estate across the country. It's at one of the top 18 markets, and that is known to always be a great place to do real estate because every sub-economy in the real estate space exists for every industry in it. And so it's an easy access state. You can open a brokerage, you can open a title company, you can become a lender really easily in our state. And so that invites even more people to come join the party, creates a lot more competition. But, over the course of the last 20 years or so, what continues to prosper? There are some mainstay brands that will always seem to find a place because they stay true to their values, for lack of a better word, the culture piece, the vibe, right? I love what you said earlier too about their color, but what you said earlier too about that you didn't like the word culture because it probably gets overused and ill-defined.
Well, that's the problem.
Right?
It does get used. So when you say it, I think there's this.
What does it really mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. It's a vibe and it's about your core values.
It is.
Yeah.
You talk about the longevity of companies, and I think our industry is headed. I think that's the other thing. The changes are pretty remarkable in a way. Long Realty is coming up on 100 years, and we used to get this. Who's Long Realty? Aren't they in Tucson? Are they still in business? And it's like one of these they've been there a long time. And so we look at it from the foundational aspect of it, that stability piece, being a Berkshire Hathaway affiliate. And but I like the brand stability is important. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting to see how virtual does. When things get difficult, collaboration becomes really important. And, so if you're virtual, it's harder to collaborate. Maybe that's me aging myself, but I think when we get a bunch of people at a table, a lot more collaboration done, or people at the office just bantering. There's a 100%. Lot more that happens on ideas and solving.
Energy.
And
that's what people want. They want the energy.
And so I think our industry is heading kind of in two different ways. I think full service brokerages will always remain. The middle is going to get more vague, I guess, or undefined. And then there's going to be the bottom with always someone trying to be the lowest, the cheapest, I'll do it for a fee. It'll be one of multiple companies that are under different shells that shuffle around, and that's more than I'll say. But people have choices, right?
Right. Yeah.
Unlimited choices. And so it's our job to share our value. What are we going to do for them?
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is a great opportunity in terms of branding and value is like, what's up with the orange?
The orange?
Share.
So I'd love to say I had some magical epiphany, but orange has always been my favorite color. I loved riding on it when school buses were really orange.
Yeah.
Not this yellow
Not the
orange.
brown. Yeah.
And
Do you like orange starbursts?
Yes, I like orange starbursts. I like, even orange crush, too much sugar. But so when I moved here, it was kind of like those. I felt like Dorothy going, we're not in Kansas anymore, because I moved from the Minneapolis market, where you could sell across the Twin Cities. The drive wasn't bad except for the roads, and it was a small market, great market. But came here and I went, oh my gosh! Someone, everyone would call and they go, call Jay, he's in Arizona. Well, I learned an awful lot about Arizona. Apache Junction, where's that? Oh my gosh, that's a long way away. Sun City. Tonopah. One of my first listings was in Tonopah, and it viewed the nuclear reactor. I said, but so I went, how are we going to stand out? I was just getting in, so it was boots on the ground. I mean, I was camping in open houses, and a couple of us got together and said, well, we got to go for I call it the crumbs at the time, because there was all this money being spent in North Scottsdale, like there is now. But I wasn't used to that. Brand money, spending thousands a month on institutional advertising. And so we said, how do we stand out? Well, one was when I was at the last company we were with before we bought the brokerage, their signs were very drab in color. And I said, first of all, they don't show up in the desert. Secondly, how am I going to stand out? So being a don't ask permission, beg forgiveness guy, I just ordered my signs, used the right logos and all that stuff, but changed colors. And they, that was
You ruffle some feathers on that one?
no, not me. But the idea was, how are we going to stand out?
Right.
How are we going to stand out? And
Which is still always the age-old question in business, how to differentiate.
how to differentiate. And so I went all in on orange, and of course, and
Bet it all on orange. Love it.
it was funny. I was talking to you about who wrote my bio, and it was Tired Madison Avenue. He was funny, very funny guy. But at the time we were using oranges, I used orange is cool. I would just tag something, but orange is cool. And I would get pictures from people around, friends I hadn't talked to, where they could be in a different country, go, hey, look, Jay, orange is cool. And he says, cool isn't sophisticated enough. And I said, well, I kind of like it. He said, it doesn't work. I said, okay. So I went, well, what does work? So he took all of my reviews and everything, and he said, I'm going to read all these, and I will tell you what I'll tell you what orange is. What do you know about orange? And he said, well, the common denominator is people say you're truthful. And so he said, orange is now truth. So use it, don't change it. And I said, okay, it doesn't roll off as well. He says, I don't care. So that's where that came from. It was an idea, what does that stand for?
I love that.
It's, someone said, I love orange because it's not red. Red can be, almost.
It's very brandy color.
Yeah, well, and
Or angry.
angry color. It
Yeah.
could be, and yellow is warm, but it's the combination. And so one of our sister companies is Edina Realty in Minnesota, and that's where I was before. And they're red, so I did a flyer, and I did Edina is red and Long is yellow, so why not use orange? And it was our brand, and it's just one of those things that most people like it. I've had a few people that go, I don't like that color. Okay, don't like it. I don't care. I mean, color also doesn't define you. I mean, in a way that you should like or dislike.
Right.
It's how do people notice us? And people will say, "Oh gosh, I see your orange signs everywhere," and I'm going like, well, there aren't that many out where you're at, but I guess you must have seen two. But it's perception becomes
Yes.
reality. And really, to me, branding is that simple, right? It is. Don't make it complicated.
Yeah,
and
right.
I think a lot of brands want to make it complicated.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be real. Long Realty put that same thought into it when they
Yep.
were created.
Yep.
Yellow.
Yep.
Well, and I think
Right?
branding is a reflection of somebody's personality. And so when it gets overcomplicated, I think that people lose themselves into trying to create something that's no longer attached to who you are. They're trying to find something that looks cool but I think when people have great brands, it has something that connects to them and who they are, right?
Yeah.
So if you use a pastel color, that might be more, reflective of your personality or your adjectives that you use to describe your business, So I love the fact that branding isn't overcomplicated. Pick your color that is a reflection of who you are and what you believe. And I think that's a really cool way to go about it.
We have a couple of agents who they both are very brash and animated, and their color's pink. And I was like, and so Amanda, who's my right-hand person for longer than I can believe she's stuck with me, but she said,
Go,
Jay,
Amanda.
pink and orange go together. And I said, really? Okay, good. And then I felt better. But
You just had to be told.
I had to be told. But we have agents who have their own brands
Yeah.
and colors. And one thing I do respect, which I think can get lost in brokerage, is having wanted to build a brand. I respect those that build a brand. So we're the foundation. You don't have to be blazing orange if you don't want to. I get that. We're your foundation. That's the change between team and brokerage. And people go, oh, you're just a team. No, we're not a team. We've got, I look at Top Comp Homes. Angie has an aversion to orange, but she's got a very sophisticated black logo and brand, and so that's good. You know what? That's her. Why change her definition? You know,
Right.
let's just be, I always say is let's be compliant.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
that's the goal. So anyhow,
Well, and I think it's a big deal, agents promoting their own branding. I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge, right?
Should be encouraged.
Yeah,
Like
and-
what you're doing.
And I'm sure you've realized there's really no option, right? Yes, we're the brokerage you're at, but we want you to make a name for yourself.
well, the thing I've never cared too much for about teams, and I know there are many formats for it, but the traditional ones is all runs through one person, and I think those under them can kind of get lost in that brand. Well, you're never going to build your own brand or be a strong individual agent if you're always not getting credit necessarily directly for the sales you're doing. And again, there's people that are great on teams
Yeah.
and love that. But I'm just saying, if you're an agent that wants to build a business and a brand, you need to have a brokerage that will, first of all, that has a strong brand, but is really willing and able to support you in building your brand. And you know, that's, I guess I looked at when we were a team, we built to 30 agents, and I used to count them on my fingers and toes because we were failed at recruiting the old-fashioned way, you know, sending out emails and calling. But people would come organically, and all of a sudden I go, oh, that's now we're at 12. But the idea was, you know, I lost my train of thought. But anyhow, we grew that organically, and those people bought into that brand.
Yeah.
But now as they shifted over, some of them still do that. Others
Right.
have blossomed into their own.
Well, and I think that like any business, like you go through your evolutions and your iterations where you start off where like maybe right now it's a good fit for me to be on a team because I'm learning, I'm observing, I'm going to structure out what I want my world to look like. And, you know, and then maybe after some time you get to that point where you're like, okay, well, I do want to create my own team and my own, or be a solopreneur. You can kind of go through these iterations of what you want in your business. And ideally, you know, you can find the foundation for that with good leadership and a you know, a strong brand that attracts enough, but lets the agent still create their own identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they want that, right? Know who you are, know who you're not.
The thought I had was, people will say, I want to build a team. And I say, well, come to us to help you build a team because we did it organically. I think no matter what that is, it has to be, you have to attract people, right? The people you want. And that's, you know, that's really a big part of it. But people need to build their own brands. We've done it a little differently. We've got some great people that have joined us. Interesting, one of our, I think the most interesting, his name is Bill McCartney. And Bill he's very humble in his talking about his history, but he was a pretty big hitter with Coldwell Banker in New York. I mean, ran a team, ran one of their branches, was one of their regionals, training, recruiting, and has really an extensive background in training and mentoring. And when we interviewed him, it was one of our agents, met him on the other side of a rental deal gone bad. Bad meaning it was really, really hard for someone to make $300,
Yeah.
one of those deals.
Yeah.
And hard time getting the landlord to pay the fee, the $300 fee, and all this stuff. And Bill's on the other side. And when it's all done, Janelle, our agent, said, I know this has been kind of hard, Bill. You looking for a brokerage? I went, and he said, funny you should say that. I am. And he came and interviewed with us, and he was going to go one of our competitors. And in the end, I said, what's your goal? What do you really want to do? Because I don't think he needs to sell real, there's people that need to sell real
Yeah.
estate. And there's those that want
Dabble.
something to do.
Yeah.
Not even dabble, but he said, I really like mentoring people and teaching. And he says, I really like helping others on deals. And I said, the company you're going to isn't really geared that way. They're a good company. It wasn't, seriously, a great brand. I said, if you come here, you will have the opportunity to mentor and influence others. I said, we all can talk about our tools and our technology and blah, 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 blah. But whatever you decide to do, remember that if that's really your goal, I think you've got a better chance here. But, nice to meet you. He came back and he said, he said, it's funny. He said he markets in an area that's heavily marketed by this other company. And he said, I decided I didn't want to be one of them in that market because I would be low on the totem pole because of so much success from others.
Yep.
He said, I'd rather be on the other with a different company competing because I have a better chance. And then he said, secondly, he said, I really want to mentor. You guys are collaborative. I like that. He says, I want to. So he's been one of our, agent mentors. He'll work with people on deals. And I think that's really the best way for agents to learn. I mean, they got to learn. They got to jump out in there. They can't, this. I'm taking training and classes till ad nauseum, teaches nothing. And the test they study for teaches them nothing.
It's almost a little easy, huh?
You're studying to pass a test.
That's right.
In my mind, and I think brokerages, and we even at times aren't as efficient as we should be on getting them started. But we're pretty cognizant of that. We've gotten a whole bunch of new, brand new agents, and they're the fun ones to watch because you get 4 or 5 of them, and some of them will kind of float at a level, but every now and then you get one that pops up, gets it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And while watching them go through, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's the best stories to watch.
For sure.
I love that story, but what I really like about it is you just said someone on your team had him on a cross sale.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, who's your best form of recruiting? Is it you, or is it the people on the team because they believe in what you're doing there?
That is a great question. I mean, because I haven't given it great thought. I've looked at kind of the ebb and flow of our movement. So last year, it was
A lot of movement.
I would say that if you could control growth, which you can't, especially organic. So if you're marketing to recruit, okay, you could turn that off. But when people just decide to come,
show up.
you don't say, well, there's a waiting list.
Right.
So obviously there's people that I know, and that isn't a majority of them. We've got a couple agents who are like, they are all over any opportunity.
Yeah.
And of course, we've got a broker that people follow pretty, our new DB that
Very well
people
known.
follow. And we've had some of that be, just following, not, and that's a whole nother thing you can't recruit. So that had to happen
Right.
by those people reaching out. But
Well, as an owner, when you think about what's important for your company, right? Obviously, there's the people piece, but do you have like a number of agents goal? Do you have or is it really reverse engineered based on what happens organically?
no, I'll tell you what. So I'm learning.
Because you need agents.
You need agents.
You can't have a brokerage without agents. So
I suppose saying this people go, boy, you're stupid. But jumping from team was easy. Team's
compared, yeah.
easy. I look back and go, I kind of long for
You
those
kind of
days.
miss those
Yeah,
days.
what was I complaining about?
Well, it was a complaint, but it's that natural progression. But so you move and you get this number of agents. You go, look at us, and you go, that's nothing. And to really run a full service brokerage, you can't nickel and dime your agents,
No.
right? And you need to, try to be your best in your branding and all these things. So guess what? That's not free because the title companies are so cheap. I've asked them to just do it all for us, and they won't. Oh wait, sorry.
Therein lies the name of our show.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No,
That's right, entitled.
But learning how to navigate that piece of it. And so, I've got Charlie McLean and Tom Noble both have had massive ownership in franchises. And I went, and when Charlie joined, it was like, I've got a great mentor because I'm a, you guys know me, I'm kind of the high level guy. I like the vision piece, but this detail stuff just, isn't my forte. And so they're both going, look, first you got to get to this number, and then you'll be recognized. whatever that means. That's when, of course, all the vultures.
And that's based on the number of agents.
Yeah, it's
that
kind
number
of that
is
because
the number
it
of.
plugs into a little formula that says, based on this number of agents, you'll get this much,
Right.
roughly these many producing, which will generate roughly
Right.
this.
Right.
And so we get to that number, and I go, that's great. And they go, we're not there yet. I went, wait, you told me. And I said, no, that's notice. Yeah, we have some targets. I think we look at growth as, so a long time ago, long time ago, far, far away, in a very orange city. Someone said, what's your vision? And I think people thought I was nuts. They still do. I know David does. But I said, I see 10 orange, I called them pods around the valley, small offices, can't get big, that are very collaborative with each other. So one of the things I noticed when I was at Edina in Minneapolis, I was in a western suburbs office. I could go to the East St. Paul office, show my card, and they'd say, Jay, welcome. There's a computer. Come in anytime. This is your office. And so I idealistically thought franchise would be like that as well. It can't be. I mean, that was impossible thing for me to think, because now you got separate owners, you got separate all this. And so I said, that collaborative piece is so important across the valley. We've got, what's ironic is out of our agent pool, we've got, 15, 16 in the East Valley. Mm-hmm. We've got about the same in the West Valley. Yep. And so we've got these pods. Yeah. We're very close, that know those markets. So that's the other piece, because the market in Phoenix is so large. Yes, can I go drive around and fumble my way through it? But, as agents, we're charged to stay within our lane on area of expertise. So if I go somewhere and I don't really understand all of what's going on with the Johnston Water Company down in Queen Creek, and I don't understand that, and I sell somebody a house, guess what? I'm not doing my job, and really that's almost like malpractice if there was such a thing. And so our goal is, if you've got small experts all over the valley, right, and they work together, and ours do. We've got this dynamic team in Sun City that joined us, and they are a machine.
That's awesome.
But they have open houses galore, and to do. And they said anyone can do these. And so, like I tell our new agents, I love going. Actually, if I could do one a month in Sun City, I kind of fun. The people are different. They're driving around their golf carts. You can do them any day of the week. They like to visit. They're good people. It's just a different generation, right? They're not doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a great training ground. So they're great open house people. She's one of the best farmers I've ever seen. And they're wide open to come on over. We'll help you, teach you about the market. You can hold all these open houses open, and that's what I see as collaborative. So you get a group that's down in the Southeast Valley. Same thing. You got some open house. Let's get agents. People can still learn other markets.
Yeah, it's a different part of the valley, but same techniques.
But you need to have the expert to help them understand it before you put them in an open house. It's actually no different. So we're in DC Ranch. Sending someone over to Greyhawk across the road,
yes,
without an understanding of some areas have 3 HOAs and some have this and some have this and all this. If you don't, again, it's become no different than sending them to Apache Junction.
Right.
And so the idea is that you have agents that are willing to share. That doesn't mean they have to, hang out with them.
Yeah, you don't have to hold hands.
Collaborative mindset to help those agents grow. And then what we find is, I'm more about informal teams, since we've done a formal team. So people say, maybe I should get a team. I said, why don't you do some trial team? Mm-hmm. So pick someone, do a transaction together. One listing, see how it goes. And let's say at the end, you guys are gritting your teeth, but you got it done. You go, I don't want to do that again. Okay, there's no real estate divorce.
Yep.
It's just, I'm going to go on and do this. On the other hand, you start building these allies. And so we see people doing cross stuff, helping out. And it isn't by, well, you're going to pay me $200 to do that. It's, I'll help you, you help me.
Right.
And that gets to that culture piece. So there was a book written by Tony Dungy called Mentor Leader. And even though it didn't have pictures, I read that book twice. But when I read that, I said, that is the outline in my mind for, doesn't matter if it's team, brokerage, company.
Right.
And his philosophy was, and he learned this somewhat from Chuck Noll, when, for those old people, Google it if you don't know, was you have to have a head coach, right? You got to have a leader. But everyone's a leader. And everyone knows something everyone else doesn't know, including the new people. And so the idea is that everyone shares their knowledge, but is also willing to learn. So you got to have that open-mindedness that I don't know everything, because we all know a few people in our industry that know everything, and they're not afraid to tell you that. Okay, well,
Right.
I'm sorry you're above my level. But the idea is that you raise everybody above the head coach. The whole idea is that everyone goes above. You can't have it where the head coach keeps sliding up with them. You get everyone on the same level. And when you do that, then everyone feels safe sharing. Everyone doesn't feel like they're asking a stupid question.
Right.
And that's the problem. People say, I don't want to ask that question. They'll think I'm stupid. No, I'll ask a stupid question. What are you guys going to do? Throw me out?
Right.
You got to feel like it's a safe place.
Absolutely.
And that model, that it works. It takes work to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But when everyone understands that we're all on the same level, so we don't talk a lot about who's the Uber superstar. In fact, if you look at our numbers, we have maybe 5 or 10 that are, if you want to call them the top agents. And they're all very close to each other. Someone was looking at their numbers and they said, oh, they're all kind of close. Actually, that's a great thing, because they don't see one as Uber competition. They have this healthy banter.
Yeah.
And it also means other people feel like they can get there. So if you only have 1 or 2, and not a criticism, but people go, I'll never get to that point. Look at, they're selling $82 billion worth of real estate. I don't know how they're doing that. I don't know how to do that. But if you've got others that are together doing that, they're sharing, and it makes it more attainable for those who are starting.
I mean, it's very emotionally intelligent. You want to create safety in any kind of group, right? Any kind of tribe. You create safety first, and then that allows people to feel safe to,
And
share.
that's why it's orange, because you're safe in the street.
There you go.
See,
Safety
that's
color.
brokerage
Yes.
safety.
Yeah.
Very, very visible.
Yeah. But I think too, a lot of seeing people do what they want to do is based in them making sure, like, comparison steals joy, right? So know who you are, know who you're not in terms of what you want to accomplish. Because I agree with you, sometimes it can be so intimidating when you see some of these top producer numbers, like, I'm never going to get there, but do you want to? Is that really what you started doing this for? What is your why in terms of why you're doing real estate? And, if you want to be, and I really do believe this, if you're at the bottom of the leaderboard, but you're happy and you're doing well, what does it matter?
Well, and that's why I don't produce the leaderboard per se very often. I think it's a good reminder. I'll have ones every now and going, can I get that every month? Because I know where I'm down here, and they want it. Okay.
But it reminds you of what's possible. And I love knowing what's possible.
But you don't also, to me, it's like you don't want to keep reminding those at the bottom that they're always at the bottom.
Yeah.
Too. So
highlight the top.
The piece that has really come to mind to me is real estate has been challenging. There's some that say, oh, it's been great for me. Yeah, it's been challenging for everybody, I think. It's just been change. And maintaining enthusiasm in our business is tough, right? I mean, you're getting told no all the time. Nothing, no one's calling on the phone, and no one's answering my mailers, and all this stuff. And I said, you have to. What's your passion? Define what your real passion is. I don't care what it is, anything that you're really passionate about. Now apply real estate to it. Because now you're going to find your sphere of influence, right? Those that have the same passion as you. And Seth Godin, in his book, This is Marketing, another book, fabulous book, says we don't need 10,000 people. We need small group of people with the highest level of connection to us to be highly successful, as successful as we want. And the only way you do that is by being in your passion. And David's passion for tree trimming is different than mine. And that's an inside joke.
Yeah,
but
that'll be a whole nother podcast.
yeah, that's a whole other things David's done that he shouldn't have on a ladder. But that's the truest thing. My son has gone through that. I remember when he joined, he said, I had an epiphany. And I said, what was that? He said, there's no such thing as easy money. And I went, oh my gosh. He said, well, you make it look easy. I said, that's only because it's been forever, and you don't know how many times I drive around the block yelling at myself. And, there's all those things and the hours you put in. I don't want you to have to do that. Just because I do that doesn't make that the right thing to do.
Right.
And he found his passion. And I kept saying, it's okay to work within your passion.
It's encouraged.
Don't think you have to do real estate first, passion second. Apply the real estate to your passion. And he's found this thing, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And he goes, this, and now the dots connect. And he's no different. I'm not picking on him. He's no different than so many agents who just go, oh, this is a drag.
Yeah.
Well, okay, go back to your passion.
What do you think is going to be like? Where do you see the agent model going in terms of a successful agent? You know what I mean? Like, it's changed so much. I mean, even I've only been in it for 20 plus years, 22 years. But what it took for an agent to be successful then compared to today, there's so many different avenues to go down. And I think that can be kind of a block sometimes. Like, do I do social? Am I supposed to be networking? Am I supposed to be, what am I supposed to, farming? Do I do postcards? Am I mailers? And so when you talk about what are you passionate about, how does all that kind of come together when you see the model of a great agent today, and where do you think it's going?
4 Disciplines of Execution.
I love that book.
Okay. Doesn't change, does it, the principles of that book?
Nope.
You do 1 or 2 things really well until the whirlwinds of life get in your way. I was made to read that book, and that has no pictures, and that was a hard read for me.
That is a hard
It's a
read.
hard read.
I've read that book twice.
But it was changing me, because I used to say I have $11 million ideas and none of them are work, because I had 11 $1 million ideas, right? I mean, you can't focus. And so, some of the conventional training out of some of the trainers is there's 5 ways to prospect. You need to do them all. I hate that part. Do it anyhow. Okay. If you hate it, guess what? You're gonna suck at it, and no one's gonna want to talk to you. Maybe you got to try it to realize how much you hate it.
For sure.
But don't stick with it. Pick 1 or 2 things that you really like to do, and then dial it way in.
Or try it to find out if you like it, opposed to hating it.
It's funny how some
like,
people, I've had some people go, I kind of like this door knocking thing. We tried it. And I said, good for you. I've done it. I've had success. I don't like doing it, but I'd rather do that than cold calling. But
at least they're trying.
But they're trying it. Try it. But if it doesn't work, don't do insanity. Just let it go. There's plenty of others.
Don't try and make yourself like it.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is so AI and technology are all really important. This is my opinion on what real estate agents need to do to be successful in the future. And I don't think it's changed. I don't think since the day we were throwing rocks on the corner of land with a camel behind us or whatever, it's been a people business, right? Relationships and trust. I even heard Jared James say, it's, you got to get beyond that. I don't think so. Those are all your tools. You use tools. But the low-hanging fruit is in connecting with people. And
it's also the least expensive thing you can do.
Kidding. But it's the most important. People want to deal with someone they know, like, and trust. And
I don't think that's ever going to go away.
You can write the best bio in the world. Doesn't mean they're going to trust you. You can have a Brazilian sales. Doesn't mean they're going to trust you. You have to get out there and do things, and that's why we so encourage people to do events. We've got these 2 spaces right now, and they're great for events. It's like they're free.
Yeah.
Go. I don't care if it's your Bible study. I don't care if it's your Cub Scout meeting. I don't care if it's your ladies get away from the husbands, drink wine party. I don't care what
Yeah.
it is. Go use the spaces. Get together with people.
Well, you have, that's the other thing I think in your broker model that I think is very important, is you create spaces, not just take out space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's,
And it's not cheap to do that.
no, it can be a gut
an
check,
investment. Yeah.
at times, but people are most comfortable, I think, when they're out and about, right? So they're shopping or they're dining or they're doing their stroll for their cup of coffee or they're whatever in their place of comfort. And so if we're in a building on the third floor, down the hall on the right, don't get lost, that takes away that avenue. And, so I think it's important for visibility, but
Yeah. Well,
see.
it creates a place of comfort.
yeah.
Well, I do think too that agents, whether they actually go into an office or not, oftentimes want to have something that represents a nice space, a good vibe, good energy. That if that one time they do need to take some clients someplace, they've got a space. If there's that one time they do want to have ladies' night, they've got a space for that.
It's interesting how you hear agents say that when they talk about a company that's gone virtual or a company that's moved their office. They go, I never went in the office anyhow, but I knew it was there. And so it's exactly what you said. It's just going, hey, there's my office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, can we meet at the office? Sure, we could meet at my office.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think that goes away. It evolves. I mean, so it isn't. You can see spaces are getting smaller, and
Well, the consumers are changing, right?
yeah.
So, what the consumer wants or expects or,
There's more year-round foot traffic here than there used to be, right? Because
For
we
sure.
got far more year-round residents.
Yeah.
And I think it's understanding where they're coming from, what they're coming from. So, expectations.
Yeah.
Real estate's different in every state. So do you really understand what they're used to or what their expectations are?
That's
and
awesome.
and our networks give us that. That's the other thing. I think we're the little engine that could. So, I always tell the people along, why don't you come up and get in one of the dog fights with us? Because we're they're the big yellow down there, and
That's so great.
we're up here, going pew pew.
Yeah.
But we're not. We're local market is almost second. People are moving, this migration continues and will continue, and when you get outside of Arizona, Long's reputation is massive because of relocation, because of leading real estate companies of the world, because of Luxury Portfolio International, because of being a part of Home Services of America. They're known. And so it's funny, we're up here, they go, I don't know, you're a nice, cute little boutique with the old people, but we're
You're so
more
funny.
connected than we are. We're more connected than any other brokerage here.
And all you can do is communicate it because people don't
Yeah.
know what they don't know, right?
Right.
They don't, and that's okay. But when they sit down and look at it, and it isn't something I created, we just said, this is good for us. We're going to really utilize these tools. That's the other piece. We have all the tools we want, and we can be promised all the tools we want. But if the brokerage isn't there to help you use them or teach you about the value, then all they are is propaganda.
Well,
That's
at
right.
that point, it's just another
Well,
tool.
it's tools. Like, what do you
We
call
have too
someone?
many.
What do you call someone that's not very bright? Look at that person's a tool. So, but this
Did she
is
say that?
Oh, yeah.
this is
Wow.
This has been really awesome.
Has she ever called me a tool?
No.
Okay, not yet.
Heck no. But this has been awesome. But like, as we're wrapping things up, like,
Yep.
what is your number one best piece of advice that you would give to any agent right now, regardless of where they're at in their career, for this market, for this moment?
So Warren Buffett always said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And we've gotten into all these models in brokerage that are, hey, I don't pay anything. I pay $25. And that's okay for some people. But there's so much value in who you work with, the culture of who you work with. What are their human resources, not just their technological resources? Because when it really gets tough and someone needs advice at 8 p.m. on a Saturday, calling the hotline to get the roving broker isn't exactly the best, right?
Right.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't want that. I'm not saying that's wrong, again, but I think you have to look at what your needs are. What do you really want to accomplish out of your business? And don't make it dollars first. It's like we tell this we say that for listings. You shouldn't ask about what the commission rate is. You should interview the agent, what they're going to do for you first, and then talk about it. Well, we don't follow our own advice. We go, what do you charge? How am I going to make? How much am I going to make? Well, how much you're going to make is how much you take advantage of the opportunities and the training and the culture and everything that you do. And so I would just say there's plenty of choices. If you love where you're at, ignore it. Ignore the noise. Do your thing.
Put your blinders on.
Yep. If you're not, then really understand what you're not happy with. Don't just broker hop because that thinks it'll change. But I think there's a lot of people that need and want and crave camaraderie and, a source for advice and place to commiserate. And so if that's what you're looking for, then it's out there. I mean, there are some good brokerages that offer that.
Yeah.
That's
And,
awesome.
So, it's
What's the best way for anyone to reach you, Jay? What's your Instagram? Or
Morse code.
Morse code? Okay. Tap, tap, tap.
I'm
tap,
a
tap,
I'm a
tap.
text guy. Myself, I'm on Instagram. I'm on all those things that they post stuff on.
I see all your videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. 602-301-4862. I don't know if that'll be somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make
We'll
sure
My
make
it's
sure.
out there.
full name spelled out, Jay Jasper at longrealty.com. Instagram is Jay Jasper Knows the Truth. Our brokerage is Long Realty Jasper Associates.
Awesome.
Stop by, have a cup of coffee.
Jay, we really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
guys.
Great to know, like I said, learn more about the person, not
Yes.
just the broker/realtor.
You're very
So,
fun too.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
That's good to know. I will
Awesome.
remember that.
Thanks.
Have fun.
Well, thanks for watching
Yes.
this episode of Entitled. You can find us on starworldwidenetwork.com. Thank you for watching. See you soon. We got some more stuff coming your way.
Excited. See you guys.
Bye.